in the Pacific, and he's seen a lot of battles and stuff, and he had quite some stories. But like he told me, he says, I was the first person he ever ran into that he was talking to about UFOs. He knew believed him, and he was always wanting to be hypnotized. And I kind of got in contact with some people that were capable of this, and we want to open the Pandora's box? He's an older gentleman, and maybe we ought to just let the sleeping dog fly. So, and that's what we ended up doing.
Now,
it was interesting to learn that out.
Yeah, I got to ask you a question, Timothy. I mean, without mentioning names of anybody you've talked to, have you talked to a few people or anybody that have been abducted that was a patient with Dr. Roger Leir? And what type of story did they tell you? And what did they remember anything? Or was it the same situation as you? They did not remember what happened.
Well, I met a few of the patients. I didn't meet them all. And I posted on my Facebook about a deal, and I didn't meet these patients earlier, but I met some of the later ones. Like I said, called the one man and met him, that had the same surgery as mine. We chatted for a while. But the interesting thing about that ends up kind of being is, he will contact me, and we would talk, but I could never get back a hold of him because he never would answer the phone when I call, which was I found a curiosity, but I understand. It's just like my third UFO encounter was with a strobe light object, and my wife and daughters were all with me. And, I realize kind of what's happening, and my wife does too, but my daughters, not completely, and I discussed it with them later on, but everybody in my family all has a little different take on what happened. So, memories can be affected just instantly, but I find it a little odd, but, there ain't nothing I can do about it, but that, learning a little bit of things. I met, there was a young lady talked to me about being abducted, and she wouldn't have known it, but she was, like I said, out, and it was a cold night out, and she was sleeping in her car, and that's something odd, and they abducted her, and she was on a large craft, run into a couple, 3 different types of beings, a large craft and stuff, but when they went to put her back, they didn't put her in her car. They left her outside, and her car was locked.
Oh, wow.
It was cold in the bear. It was a cold, and, it was one of them 0-10-degree nights, and she was in Nebraska, so.
Oh, wow.
But she ended up getting able to get her car somehow, and got open, but, which otherwise it would have been kind of a dream or something, really not a real good memory. But when they did that, then she knew the cat was out of the bag then, so to speak, with her. So, and, different stories, different things. And you get talking, like you were talking with the magnetic car. You hear little things about that, and I hear about, like, solid light, which is always an interesting phenomenon, that solid light, and, just things that, to even think about it is still kind of baffling, how do you magnetize a car, I worked in construction. I used to magnetize some of my equipment, like drill bits and stuff, so they worked a lot nicer, but, which was pretty simple, but different things like that.
Yeah, but I mean, one thing was if you can take a screwdriver and a bar magnet,
sure.
You can temporarily, magnetize the screwdriver, but it loses its magnetism. Where in this case, the thing has been growing in its magnetism, which is kind of strange.
Yeah, it was kind of strange, though. Man, it found itself. But, and you wonder about that things, but then, you got magnetism, which is a force here. But, like I said, you go to some other part of the universe, you might get around a sun that's, 100,000 times more magnetic than the one we're around. So what kind of situation, what kind of deal do we encounter there? What kind of field, and if they're able to understand and manipulate that kind of power, then you see, then they come here, it's just, like I said, it's just all in different things. It's just like, why would they put metals that have non-earthly isotopic ratios in the implants that Dr. Leir was finding? Well, if they were a computer, then they more material, more computing power, so to speak, is the way I look at it.
Well, if it was compounded off of this world anyway, I mean, the way they compound it would be different than how we compound on this world. So.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I'm just saying, why would they use that if they could use material from around here that would accomplish this, same thing, but this was better suited, and so be brought in. I mean, I'd say a little different technology. One of the things I chuckle back now when I first met Dr. Leir, and we was kind of sitting around talking, and it was, what kind of intelligence are we encountering? And then he says, well, they kind of say that the aliens can kind of get in a circle and sit around the table and think about something and make it. Well, that was kind of an interesting look. And now what do we got? 3D printers. I mean, just the little simple things like that have showed up in the 18 years since I had my surgery in.
Well, got to
learn a little bit.
A lot of things that happened, since the crash in Roswell.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just, like I was telling you before we went on the air, too, is I have some pictures that was sent to me of people being mutilated, and that, you're lucky. You just had an implant. How about the unlucky people that are abducted and basically dumped off the same way the cattle is?
Well, yeah. Like I said, when I went to the UFO Congress in Laughlin in 2000 with Dr. Leir, I was around some very serious researchers there, and cases of human mutilation were brought up. I mean, didn't have graphic. I didn't see the graphic things, but it was talked about a little bit. I think it was talked about in the tone that it's a reality. 5 years ago, I was involved in a cattle mutilation case out here that was quite strange. I mean, the man lost about he lost 1, 2, 3, 4 cows, and they probably all worth at least $4,000 a piece. So and come by, and I really didn't get in on the first two. I was a little late, and the third one they had to put down because they had mad cow. But then the fourth one, which is mutilated about 4 miles from where these other three were at, was quite strange. And I was able to get there with a friend quite early, and we was able to get some pictures and documentation. This went on Earth Files, and but they'd stuck this animal's head into a abandoned prairie dog hole so far in you thought the animal was decapitated when you got there. And its legs were straight out to the side, and it's missing its udder and its anus and a few things. And it was also missing its tail. And we've kind of chuckled, never really heard of it just taking a tail. But that laid this animal out. And they kind of wanted you to believe that maybe the animal fell and its head went in the hole, but the head fit tightly in the hole, but the hole was a little deeper than the head was long. So interestingly, at the bottom of the hole, there were some cobwebs that were still intact. So, the animal's head didn't go into a hole with a lot of force, or it destroyed the cobwebs at the bottom of the hole.
That is really strange there, too. I'll make it strange. And the interesting thing was, this gentleman had his ranch on Google Earth, so we went up and to his headquarters, was looking around, and my friend that was with me asked where the other cattle were mutilated at. So he got up his Google, and we Googled over there, and lo and behold, there on Google Earth is the 3 cows. They've got a picture of his ranch with these mutilated cows on it. Oh, wow.
The cows got mutilated in June 24th, 2013, when this Google picture was taken. And this is, we're the 1st of August, 2013 over there looking at another mutilated animal 4 miles from this place. And so we found that to be quite interesting of why that's on there. So we get to snooping, and it got posted kind of that day. But interestingly enough, the rancher and I contacted our congressional representation because the photograph on Google Earth had been manipulated. Part of the photograph was taken from a satellite, and part of it was taken from an airplane. Asked Earth Files had a photo expert look at it and was able to determine from the different pixels on the different areas of the photo. The north and west parts of the photo were doctored. Could never get an answer for that, but quite interesting. Of course, like I said, the interesting thing was when we Googled over there and looked at it, there was only 2 people on the face of the earth that know that those were mutilated cow. And that was me and this rancher.
Oh.
So
now,
that was quite interesting.
What was the weather like when you remember when you went and checked it out? What was the weather like?
Oh, it's hot. It was July. It was warm when I was over there, Nebraska.
So this happened.
This was June 24th, 2013, and August the 1st, 2013. Both of them, they wasn't super hot, but it was warm. See, that's how come I was so late getting over there. The first cows, then, they really had no value because they deteriorated. That was quite the flies and the heat. But the second one did get some material, but there nothing was really determined that I ever heard of. And because I sent samples to Dr. Leir to see, and it really didn't show nothing. So, But like I say, the photo showed up, and I thought that was the interesting thing of the deal, and then why the cow was there. But we're working on that.
Well, it's kind of strange. I don't know if it ties in with cattle mutilation, but, I had a trucker on about 4 months ago, and he used to be a long-haul trucker, at nighttime. And one night, he was just going in the desert or coming out of the desert, and it was cattle country.
Okay.
And he just happened to, and this is at night, he just happened to look out of his cab side window, and he saw this cow, going up in the sky with a bright light, and he's looking, and he doesn't see any chain, doesn't see any rope, and he sees, the head going head first, and this thing is just going up in the air, and he said that was it. That he said the next morning he told his boss he's not doing any more long haul, runs anymore.
Well, was the one he was hauling, or did it come from somewhere else? I
don't know.
Did he take it off his truck?
No.
Was he hauling live cattle?
No, he was hauling freight or whatever he was hauling. He just looked out.
Oh, he's hauling freight. Okay.
Yeah, he just looked out of his cab window and saw this cow going up in the sky, and and I talking to the guy, I really believe that's what he saw. They were probably abducting a cow to do whatever they're going to do.
Oh, yeah, I've run into. In fact, one of the better stories I heard was some people out in Washington State, out in your area, and they were abducting, were beaming up an elk. And they were beaming it up and trying to move it, and the elk hit a couple of trees going up and knocked the tops off the trees.
Oh, yeah.
And one time I was in a Walmart, and I had my gear on, which you can see, and a guy approached me. He was sitting there. He was kind of a doorman, but he got talking, and we got talking. And he'd kind of give up. He'd kind of give up trucking because he'd been trucking, and a UFO come down in front of him, and he said he was doing probably 60, 65 in this semi, and he says it stopped. Just stopped right there.
I mean, instantly came to a stop without no impact.
Instantly came to a stop. Without no vertigo or whatever. He said that truck, we weren't moving. He says, "Don't ask me what happened." He says, "Because he got freaking out." And I said, "I believe it." He said, "Yeah, I was doing all 60, 65." He says, "I had a load on it." He says, "That truck come to that was it. Boom." And then everything was just gone.
I wonder.
Like I said, if they messed with him or something, like I say, just how would you know? You don't know.
That's the whole point. You don't know.
I know a lot of people find that hard to believe, but